Hi, it's Louise at Spiral Bright Insight with an energy check-in, and we are in a very powerful week. A pair of eclipses for this eclipse season, which is the lunar eclipse in Virgo on Friday. And if you, for those of you who have watched my eclipse video, thank you very much. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend you go and watch that. But I just wanted to come on and check in and really share a little bit about what is coming up for me, because I'm not entirely sure if this came through in my eclipse video, but my feeling is and my experience is that as we build up to the eclipse in Virgo, which is very much about embodiment and letting go of anything that is really sort of standing in our way in terms of our potential for our soul's evolution and our soul's growth, but coming through in very physical form. And eclipses are all about disrupting the status quo and the general flow of energy. And this is why they are often feared. They're seen as wild cards. Things can happen that are very unexpected, that seem to come out of nowhere, and they course correct essentially. And what I am finding is that I am getting a lot of feedback from my body at this time. So I wanted to come on and share that, because I think, this is a very strong Virgo theme. With Virgo, it is mutable earth. So the focus is very much on the body and embodying the energies in service to others at a very practical level. And with Virgo is all about streamlining, making sure that there is efficiency, that there is order, that things are working correctly to their optimum level. And this does apply to the body. So if you have strong Virgo in your chart, and certainly with the build up to this full moon, there is going to be a focus on streamlining and improving the systems. That includes, what are we digesting? And I have certainly noticed that my body is saying no to things that I would normally have, taken great pleasure in enjoying. Alcohol is one thing that my body's just saying no to at the moment. And that's quite surprising. I'm not going to lie, but I have to trust, and I think I have to really listen to what my body is sort of trying to tell me, and honor that. So if you are noticing any changes in what your body sort of wants to consume, or what you feel, you want to take on, what you want to digest at this time, it means you are absolutely in tune with the lunar eclipse energies. And, there may also be a lot of purging. And I know I mentioned this in my last video, there are a lot of people experiencing quite challenging symptoms at the moment. There is a lot of flu, there are a lot of, tummy issues. And again, it is about the body detoxifying, purging, clearing the channel, because as we move beyond this eclipse and we move through the eclipse portal or gateway, which is a 2-week period between the lunar and then the solar eclipse at the end of March, my feeling is that we have to get to a point where we are as clear and as empty as possible energetically. And obviously we can do that by clearing out at a physical level in order to create this really potent kind of creative void, this creative space from which something, incredible, magical can be born. But if we've got a really cluttered system, if we've got a lot of energetic sort of blocks and backlogs and, just general congestion, then that is going to be very difficult. So this lunar eclipse is really supporting us to almost bring on that process. So there's definitely a case of the body is talking, and the body is always going to highlight things that we maybe aren't able to connect with at a mental or an emotional level. So, and that can often manifest as really kind of weird symptoms. So I'm not a medical practitioner or professional, and I'm not giving any medical advice whatsoever. But I would say that if there are things that are maybe a little bit sort of odd that come out of nowhere that make you think, oh, little niggly things, obviously if something serious, you need to go and see a doctor. But if there's something, that happens, for me, it was a little patch of skin on my leg, which was really in a round circle, really bright red. It looked quite angry. It looked heated. It wasn't itchy at all. This happened a few months ago, but there is relevance to the story. And in the end, I was using all my natural remedies, castor oil, tamanu, coconut oil, trying to get to the bottom of, well, trying to clear it away because, it was a little bit unsightly. But in the end, I did go to the doctor and it is now gone. But it was only yesterday, following a chat with my homeopath, that I was kind of invited to just sit and really think about what that mark on my leg was trying to tell me. And when I went into it and really sort of, went in, tuned in, I realised that it was absolutely connected to a past life, not of my own, but in my ancestral line, which I was bringing through. It was alerting itself to me, and that was the way it was going to attract my attention. And I was able to go in and clear that memory. It was very residual energy, but it was linked to trauma. It was linked to sort of being branded. So, there's all sorts of stories associated, and I'm not going to, it isn't necessarily, the right place to share the ins and outs, but it's just an example of, what is the body trying to communicate to you? Because if there is dis-ease, if there is something niggling, then it is likely that it is something that you have perhaps, not admitted, that you've denied, that you have ignored, or something that you've not had the ability to see before. And the body's very clever. The body will find ways to talk to us and give us feedback. So with strong Virgo in the chart approaching this full moon, you may find that this is the case. So if there is something coming up, I would invite you just to sit and to tune in and to ask the body. Go to that part of where we know whatever it is and just sort of connect to it and ask it what it wants to tell you. And you may be surprised at what your body sort of responds and what the answer is. But any places where we are carrying blocks that are manifesting in the physical, it is likely that these are going to be brought forward for us to release at this time. And another one that's come up for me very strongly is the Alta Major, which is the chakra at the back of the head. It's sort of the point where sort of the at the base of the skull, where the top of the neck meets the skull. And this is the mouth of God. So this is said to be, a really powerful chakra that not everybody is fully aware of, but it is where we have our sort of spiritual connection, where we connect to other realms and other aspects of ourselves. So it is a very powerful chakra, and it links to the throat and also to the third eye. So if this part is blocked, and for me, I'm only starting to realize how blocked my Alta Major has been over, years and years and years, you are likely to experience sort of stiff neck, painful headaches that might start sort of at the neck and radiate up and round. Obviously, again, not a medical professional. I know there's lots of reasons and lots of things that can create and trigger headaches, but, this might be something to look at if this is something that is, is an ongoing issue, which it has been for me. And this particular chakra it's really important that we keep it clear, especially if we are high frequency souls, if we're sensitive, if we are intuitive, because if there is a block there, then it is going to create a lot of stiffness. It's going to affect our sinuses, our third eye, the head, the crown area. But it's also very much, a doorway or a portal to our higher states of consciousness. So if this is something, that is resonating and you think, oh, actually, yeah, I really need to just check in, I would invite you again just to sit still, sort of still everything around you, come into the body, connect with the breath, and then start to connect with that part, with that chakra. And, if you feel that there is sort of energy or a block, or there's something, there that doesn't feel right, I would just invite you to breathe in and out through that part of the body and just, ask that any blockages or any restrictions are dissolved for the highest and greatest good, with benevolence, in the most gentle and uplifting way possible. It's also advisable before you do any energy work like this to make sure that you are fully grounded, that you have a connection to the earth, and that you have your energetic protection in place. But if this point is clear, then that is going to really help you to connect to your higher self and to other realms. Obviously, always doing that, in a safe, protected way. But it's going to help with spiritual awakening, with deepening our intuition, with helping, our third eye to open and to have that higher sort of connection with source energy. So that is something that's come up for me that I just felt that I wanted to share. But the other thing that is really coming forward for me today, and well, it's been for a few days and it's building, and I'm sure this is part of a journey that I am on, but again, it feels relevant to share because Venus is currently in retrograde motion. Now she's moving from 9 degrees into 8 degrees of Aries today, and she is meeting Mercury, who is in direct motion in Aries. Now, Mercury is going to station retrograde on Saturday, the day after the eclipse. So, Mercury and Venus are going to travel together for the next coming weeks as Mercury moves retrograde through the first decan of Aries and then back into Pisces with Venus. But there is a real sort of potent energy coming through today with this conjunction. So Venus in retrograde meeting with Mercury, there is a really strong clarity and understanding coming through about the role of Venus, about her journey, about what it is that she is exploring and uncovering as she moves retrograde in Aries. And of course, Venus retrograde in Aries is all about a journey into the self, to discover the self, to discover who you are, and to reconnect or connect for the first time with the true version of yourself, if that's not something that you've been able to do before. And quite frankly, not everybody can. So this is very much the hero's journey, but it is a very beautiful, very gentle, very guided path that we are called to walk at this time. When we're working with Venus, we are exploring our relationship to beauty, to the arts, to self-worth, to our attraction point. Obviously, as we connect more with who we are and we explore ourselves from a point of unconditional love and increase our self-worth, that has a knock-on effect on our relationships with others, because Venus is very much about, especially in Aries with the opposition energy in Libra, this is about knowing the self and feeling completely at whole and at one with the self, which then reflects out so that our relationships can reflect that back to us. So we are exploring gifts, talents, what we value, our relationship with beauty, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with other people, also our relationship with money and finances and the resources that we need in this world to feel safe and secure. But this is absolutely a time for review. And she is very much on this journey of transformation and metamorphosis. She's moving from being the evening star. She will meet with the sun, have her Venus star point, Sun, Venus cazimi, and then she will transform into the morning star. So this is a really beautiful time. And it is part of the hero's journey, particularly in Aries. This is about really exploring who we are and what we are and, what do we stand for. This is really also an opportunity to explore the spiritual warrior that is within us and, what fires us up, what motivates us, what kind of gets us up in the morning, but also really kind of connecting with what really matters, because Venus is ultimately about worth, self-worth and value. And the whole archetype of the spiritual warrior is coming up because it feels as if we are going to be exploring any inner conflict during this time, and realizing that if there is inner conflict or outer conflict in our lives, that it is often starting with the self. It starts within. And if Venus is retrograde in Aries and then into Pisces, we're going to explore where that conflict might be lying, what is the cause of it, how are we creating it essentially. And then as she moves back into Pisces, we are able to release it, to let it go, to release our attachment to it, to give it up to a higher power, and to transcend any sense of feeling like a victim that is often the case when we do feel that we are at war either with other people or ultimately with ourselves. So this is a time to really sort of sit with our shadow, understand, what is being reflected back, what are the lessons, but also to really meet ourselves with a new level of compassion and a new level of self-love. And the reason I'm talking about Venus so extensively, this is kind of a bit of an exercise for me, if I'm being completely honest, because again, this is something that came up yesterday for me. I have worked with this amazing homeopath and she is incredible. And, I was talking about Venus and the fact that she's retrograde, and how Venus, in terms of all of the energies, archetypes, planets, bodies, stars in astrology, Venus is probably the one that I feel the least connection with. I've found it always very hard to talk about Venus, to really understand her. And yesterday this kind of conversation sort of led me to understand that I have been disconnected from Venus, and because I'm disconnected from her energy, I'm disconnected from that part within myself. So this retrograde in Aries is this beautiful opportunity for me to really go in and to sit with the Venus archetype, to bring her in, to sit with her, to get to know her, to find out about her. And I've been doing a bit of that work this morning, which again is part of my self-healing. But it made me realize that, often the energies or the planetary bodies, archetypes that we feel the least resonance with, or that we feel most distant from, are often the ones that we need to work with the most. They are the ones that if we are able to crack and sort of accept, embrace and embody and integrate that energy, that is the root and the key to wholeness. And what's really interesting, because, we were talking about the fact that I have possibly disconnected, disassociated or even rejected Venus so far. This is a long time. I'm 52 years old. The planet or the body that I am most sort of fired up about and I feel most connection to is Chiron, the wounded healer. And I've done videos about Chiron before, but this is an energy that I just get. Chiron speaks to me so strongly, so profoundly. And when I discovered Chiron in astrology, things made so much sense about my own journey. And I think that's one of the reasons why I resonate with Chiron so deeply. But it's interesting because, Chiron is, in my chart, is sextile to my natal Venus. So there is definitely this need to work with the healing energies and the wounds in terms of working with my Venus, which incidentally, Venus is an Aquarius in my chart in the 5th house. So I do experience her at a very mental level, which is probably, she's not in her sort of true form, in her most comfortable placement in Aquarius, because Venus is about embodiment and desire and passion and sensuality and beauty and creativity. Now, obviously Venus is in my 5th house, so I do have that creativity and it is accessible to me, but it's almost like I have to overcome this kind of sense of barrier from, bringing her out of my head and trying to intellectually work through everything and start to bring her into my heart, which is, of course, if we think about the integrations and the oppositions in astrology, Leo, the opposing sign to Aquarius, the sign of the heart. And ultimately, this is what I need to work towards. And how beautiful that, Venus is currently in Aries. The opposing energy is in Leo. So there's this beautiful fire trine. It's like awakening a spark, a flame, an inner light within me. So it all feels completely aligned, very divinely sort of orchestrated and guided. And that's one of the things I absolutely love about astrology. So I would invite you, after my little waffle, and I hope that, there might have been something in there that helped, that resonated, that spoke to you personally, because obviously Venus is retrograde for all of us at the moment. But I was just wondering, whether you would be able to identify which archetype planet, cosmic body, it might be dwarf planet, just which energy in astrology is it that you feel most resonant with, that is the strongest, that speaks strongest, that you just get, that you feel you've almost mastered. And in contrast, which body or planet would it be that you feel the most disconnected from? The most, it's just hard for you to, it's there, but you don't really get it. You don't really work with it. It doesn't really speak to you, because my feeling is that if we start to explore these sort of parts, and this is quite new for me, but I wanted to bring it to you because it feels powerful. We might just find, how are these two planets interacting? Are they aspected with each other in the chart? Are there blocks? Are there squares? Are there oppositions? Is there some energy that needs to be worked through? Or, is it true, as in my case, and again, this is all an experiment because I don't know how this is going to work out, whether it is just me. Is it true that the energy that you feel least connection with is actually the one that you need the most? So I'm just sharing that. I'm putting that out there. It's something to reflect on. I've not taken it a step further and looked at the galactic connections, and I think that will definitely be worth doing, and I think I will do that. But, I'm about to start the Venus sequence with the Gene Keys, the Richard Rudd, Gene Keys program. So, this is something that I'm obviously is really part of my soul's growth at this time. And my hope is that as I really bring Venus in and, she's been a little bit sort of on the periphery, I guess, in Aquarius, a bit fringe, a bit sort of outcast because I've never been able to quite get her. But I'm hoping that with this retrograde and the work that I'm embarking on and that I'm doing for myself during this time, it's going to really unlock an aspect of me that perhaps I had shut down or not, or denied or rejected, or just hadn't been able to bring in and recognize. So, who knows what that will mean for my creativity, for how I value myself, how I'm able to sort of work through my worth and, the abundance and the attraction and magnetism, all of that. It feels quite exciting, but it does also feel like it requires a bit of effort, which is fine because, nothing ever really comes easily. I think if you put the work in, and obviously with Saturn in trine to my Venus in Gemini, I do have to put in some work, but I think the rewards will be more than worth it. So Mercury conjunct Venus today is really giving us this understanding, I think, of the Venus role, the Venus archetype in our charts. So where is this taking place in your chart? Which house, which part of your life are you feeling it? Are you getting clarity, new understanding about Venus, about, your own self-worth, about the journey that you are undergoing at this time, whether consciously or not? And, what is it that you also can let go of in terms of, what you might be holding on to, energies, sort of residual connections, memories, woundings from other lifetimes, even in your ancestral line. They might not even be from your own past lives, but what is it that you are holding on to that is ready to be released, so that you can create the space so that when we move into the eclipse portal and we have this beautiful 2-week period of just, pure void, but also pure potential, what is it? Have you got enough space that you need to be able to create what is coming in for you, and also be able to welcome in, because Venus is also about receptivity, and we're very good at giving. I'm certainly very good at giving. I have a Virgo ascendant. I just want to be served, to be useful, to do something, to be busy. But it's also about being receptive, and Venus in retrograde is also inviting us to connect with that aspect of ourselves as well, even if it feels a little bit awkward or a little bit tricky. Where are you open to receiving what, is ultimately the most beautiful, the most abundant, and, the most valuable gift. So we've got, once we get through the eclipse, Mercury will be stationing retrograde on Saturday, the following day. So that is going to trigger some other energies. And then over the coming weeks in the eclipse portal, there is a lot of activation with the sun. So we have a lot of Kazimis, We also have equinox. We are moving into an incredibly potent time. So I will try to come on to check in, to share what is coming up with me in the hope that it is useful, that it resonates. And I take the view, especially with, strong Aquarius in my chart, that what I might be going through is actually, a reflection of the collective. And I know we're all connected, so that is true for everybody, but it feels, more, it feels very relevant for me. So I hope you enjoyed my ramblings, my sharing, that there's been something valuable in it. If you are new to my channel, please do subscribe to my mailing list, which you can do so on my website, spiralbright.co.uk. Please do like the video. Please subscribe to the channel, the YouTube channel. I've got other social media platforms as well. And actually, yes, I must say, I have decided to sort of branch into TikTok, which is, again, slightly outside my comfort zone, and it's new, it's very small. But if you are on TikTok, and I wouldn't recommend that you sign up just to follow me at all, because it's a bit of a crazy platform. But if you are on there, if you want to look me up, Spiral Bright Insight, I do share sort of updates as well as to what is going on. So it's an experiment. It's me trying to be creative. We'll see what happens. But yeah, please do feel free to look me up and follow me and like or whatever on there. So yeah, I'd be grateful for a few more follows, because a very small following at the moment. But yes, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you as always for watching, for commenting, and for supporting my work. I really am so grateful. Sending lots of love.